Beer halls in Munich, a tropical IPA, and pink passion fruit sour. This week, it's all about beer.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. If you're new here, Destination Eat Drink is the place for foodies who like to travel and travelers who love to eat. And this week, we're kicking off summer with some great beer from around the world. But first, take a minute, rate and review Destination Eat Drink on your podcast app. Just takes a minute and really helps other foodie travelers just like yourself find the show. And if you really love food and travel, check out my Foodie Travel Guide ebooks, my Portugal Foodie Travel Guide. It's the best value at just $9.99 for guides to 17 cities and towns in Portugal and all the local things to eat and drink and things to do. Download yours at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink, and thank you very much. This week, we're sampling beer from Asheville, North Carolina, one of the country's great beer cities, downing huge mugs of beer in Munich and spicy tacos with craft beer in Santa Fe, and learning about the emergence of craft beer in Berlin. And I'm thirsty, so let's drink.
Destination Eat Drink.
Stu Helm is a foodie travel guide in Asheville, North Carolina, known locally as the Food Fan. He tells me about some of the best places to grab a pint in his city. If foodies know one thing about Asheville, it might be that it's such a great craft beer city. It's, world-renowned for the craft beer. So give us a rundown, some of your favorite breweries, some of your favorite taps that you enjoy in Asheville. There's so many of them, I know, but maybe pick out a few that you really like, Stu.
Well, let me give a shout out to my friends at Brumari. Tough word for the people of Asheville to muckle onto because it starts with a B-H-R, Brumari. We didn't know how to pronounce that word. It's a Hindi word, turns out. And Brumari has a great kitchen, for one thing. I'm always interested in the breweries that serve food or have a food truck associated with them. And Brumari has a great kitchen. Chef is a graduate of the School of the Cordon Bleu, so he's no slouch. He's making bar food, but elevating it, so the food is great. And the beer menu is very eclectic, meaning I recommend it to people who are kind of new to the craft brew scene. I'm like, go to Brumari, get a flight of 4-ounce pours, get one of their Pilsners, one of their Kolsch's, one of their IPAs, one of their sours, see what you like, and then either stick around Brumari and keep drinking the ones you like, or walk on down to the South Slope, which is known as the Little Downtown Brewery District. There are bigger breweries outside of downtown, but downtown has a ton of them too. So Brumari to start with. I will also recommend Burial Beer, and that's right on the South Slope. And Burial's a taste of local Asheville. So very popular with the locals. These days, the locals go out on Wednesday night because everything's so crowded on the weekends,
Oh, okay.
The space is a real taste of Asheville. There's a food truck associated with it that's just bolted right to the side of the brewery and serves food. So Burial Beer on the South Slope. And then sticking to the South Slope, I'll say Catawba Brewing, one of the biggest and most popular of the little breweries in Asheville. And they have a popular beer called White Zombie that comes out once a year and just gets snapped right up. And they always have a food truck there. When it's slow on Monday or Tuesday, maybe not, but on the weekends for sure. And the food trucks are always great, like some of the best in Asheville, like Deli Llama Food Truck and the Purple People Feeder. And then last one, and then I'll stop rambling. But the Funkatorium has its own kitchen, and they make awesome wings and awesome burgers and stuff like that. So bar food, but again, elevated. Chef Eric Morris over there doing that, and they specialize in sour beers. So there you go.
Rick Kempfer is an award-winning writer, podcaster, and book publisher. When his book Back in the DDR was released, he came on the show to talk about it and the famous beer halls of Munich. Part of your book takes place in Munich. You can't go to Munich without visiting the beer halls. Let's talk about those a little bit. Well, first of all, Rudy has a good time in the beer halls, I guess, right?
Yeah, the beer halls are not just for grown-ups in Germany. Kids can drink beer too in Germany. There's nothing weird about it. It's a normal drink. And the beer halls are in Munich. Every one of the major beers has their own beer garden or beer hall. The Löwenbräu, you can go to Paulaner, you can go to the Hofbräuhaus, Augustiner. They all have their own beer gardens. And so I had to include that in the book because that's such a big part of Germany, and especially a part of Munich. You can't go to Munich without going to one of those beer halls. And the Hofbräuhaus is the most famous one. That is that has been around for 100 years or more. In fact, I mentioned it in the book, but Hitler's beer hall Putsch was there. The Nazi Party was formed there. Not that they have any plaques up.
Right.
Not really proud of that, but there's a lot of history there, is what I'm saying.
I've never been to Munich. I would love to go to one of these beer halls. I mean, there's beer halls in Berlin, and I've been to those, and that's a lot of fun. But it seems like the ones in Munich, and even some of the places in Munich, they've opened beer halls now in Berlin, and they're fun and everything. But I think in Munich, it would be taking that experience to a whole new level. Just give me a thumbnail. What's it like when you go into one of these beer halls in Munich? What's the atmosphere like? What do you do? What do you drink? What do you eat?
So there are giant picnic tables. So you don't sit at a table like a regular restaurant. Long picnic tables, and you just are mingling with other people. So you're forced to meet strangers, which is fun because it's such a tourist attraction. There are people from all over the world at this place, and you meet people from Denmark or Portugal or wherever. They come to Munich, they go to the beer halls, and then you have a conversation. And after a big beer or two, it's the conversation is lubricated, and by the end of the night, you're having a good time. The food that they have there is really kind of secondary to the beer. They do have your traditional German food like bratwurst and things like that, but you're really not there for the food.
I see these pictures of these women. It's usually women who are serving these, and they're holding steins of beer that are absolutely massive. I've never drunk a beer out of such a big mug as that. What are those, like a liter or something? 33-ounce?
Yeah, if you're starting your third one, make sure you have somebody to take you home because that it does have an effect on you. That's a lot of beer. But you're right about the waitresses. That's like you don't want to get into a street fight with these ladies. They are strong. Each one of those, to give you an idea, when I had my first one, I was probably 16 or 17. I could barely hold it to drink it because it was that heavy. And they've got 4 in each hand.
Right.
The other thing is they all have bands playing, like German Oompa bands.
Oompa music, okay.
There's a scene in my book where they're at the Hofbräuhaus, and it's on July 4th, and they're playing American songs, and singing Happy Birthday to America. That's something that I actually witnessed once. I thought that was a very cool thing, that they realize the Americans are there, and they, in their German accents, sing You're a Grand Old Flag and stuff like that.
Darlie Newman is the award-winning host and creator of the TV show Travels with Darlie. She tells me about enjoying the craft beer of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Let's talk about one of my favorite places first, which is Santa Fe, New Mexico. This is a place my parents used to go to back in the 70s. They loved it for the artwork. My mom was a big Georgia O'Keeffe fan. I remember we had Georgia O'Keeffe prints hanging in the house when I was a little kid. But when I went to Santa Fe, I was loving being there and trying all the great food, especially trying the craft beer. I know you're a fan of craft beer. What was your experience like?
Oh, and I've been to Santa Fe many, many times now. Love it. And Georgia O'Keeffe, I did go to Ghost Ranch too, which is one of the places that inspired a lot of her works and where she lived for a number of years. So really cool episodes coming out on Santa Fe. But the beer when you're traveling is actually another cool thing to taste to get to know the area, because usually it's made with the local water. And I went to Santa Fe Brewing Company, actually 2 of their outposts. One was along the Turquoise Trail, which is a scenic byway route that you can drive. And along that route, there was the old mining town of Madrid. There's a place called Origami in the Garden where you can take in art. And then you can make a stop at Santa Fe Brewing Company. It's another small business that has expanded and is really popular within New Mexico. The beer you can buy throughout the state. And Brian Locke is the owner. I got to sit down with him and try the local craft beer. We took a walk through their factory there to see how they're packaging everything and their unique kind of Southwestern flair on the beer cans. And he was explaining that this beer is made with their local well water, and that just like anything else, the local water, of course, that's making up a large percentage of that beer in there. And it really just has a different identifier, a different taste. If you were to take water from New York State, of course, it would be different. So the local water plays into the taste for the beer there. And it reminded me of my New York bagels, because everyone says New York bagels are better because they're made in New York with the New York water. So kind of a similar thing.
Right.
Yeah, when you're trying beer in different places. And I tried one of their local IPAs, which he called like a tropical IPA, but it was their number 1 selling. So I was trying kind of the mainstream hoppy flagship beer, and it was really good. The fun thing about visiting this place is that it's really large. They actually have a number of events there, and sometimes there's live music in the back. But there's an outdoor area if you want to be outside, and different games outside that you can play. There's an indoor area to sit at more of a bar setting. You can kind of look into the factory from the indoor area. And there's also a food truck on the property. And we had tacos with, different chili peppers. And that is a great thing to try and to chase with the beer. So when you have something hot, you have your beer with it. And I thought it was really a fun stop to just get a sense of the area and again, what makes trying a craft beer unique there. But I also did go to the break room, which is right downtown in Santa Fe. And that's housed in an old cabin that the railroad brakemen used to sleep in the early 1900s. If you're in Santa Fe, there's Sky Railway, which I did, which is George R.R. Martin has taken this old railway, the Santa Fe Railway, and revitalized it into this adventure train experience. So I basically went and did the break room, which had a railroad component because the brakemen used to sleep there, and it still has an old tin ceiling, and tried the Santa Fe Brewing Company beer there, and then went on the train, which the train has local beers they're serving as well. So if you want to do beer tasting, there's a lot of options in the Santa Fe area. They actually have an ale trail. They have a chocolate trail. They have a margarita trail. So if you like food and drinks, there's a lot of options to hop around and try different things when you're in the area, and it's really accessible and easy to find.
Yeah, and the thing I like about Santa Fe, you can visit the breweries, and you definitely should. But the thing I really like is you can go into any bar or tavern or restaurant, and undoubtedly they will have some of these local beers on tap. And you don't always see that, in a lot of other cities. You go to a city and they'll say, oh, this is a great place for craft beer. But you walk into a bar and, there's Budweiser or whatever. Santa Fe really walks the walk, I think, when it comes to supporting the craft brewers that are in the city and in the area. Margot and Alex are the team behind the Walk With Us tours in Berlin, Germany. Alex tells me about beer culture and how craft brewers are becoming a bigger force in Berlin.
What you see also reflected in the craft beer scene is that a lot of international people, so American brewmasters, guys from Scandinavia, from the UK, from Netherlands, Belgium, and so on, they kind of are influential these days in maybe creating and shaping a new beer culture, maybe breaking with the very traditionalist approach to German beers, and also getting together with German Berliner brewmasters that come from the old German craftsmanship when it comes to beer, and fusing two brewing or multiple brewing traditions, multiple approaches in regards to beer together and create something new. And that is, I think that's the story of all aspects of life within Berlin and in Berlin. But that's also very true for the craft beer scene. So you find, of course, traditional German lagers, well brewed, but you also find like some crazy pink guava passion fruit sour.
Cool.
That is also a part of the scene. Also, on that note, Berlin has actually a long tradition of sour beers, because the oldest beer of the city of Berlin is the so-called Berliner Weisse, and that is a sour wheat beer, right? So using lactic acid bacteria for one part of fermentation. So a probiotic drink, I call it.
It's good for you.
And yeah, exactly. Well, Berliner wellness, you could say.
Okay.
Berliner wellness drink.
I like it.
Yeah, and so it has. There's also what I see, which is interesting, a revitalization of old German regional beer styles like Berliner Weisse, Gose, smoked lagers from Franconia, just these like specialty beers that always existed, but they were not really represented in the mass market for beer. And the beauty of the craft beer scene in Berlin is that it showcases the beautiful diversity, the different colors, flavors, and also offers, let's say, American styles, incredible like New England style IPAs or West Coast IPAs, or traditional English stuff, English style stouts or Irish style stouts. And it is the same story with the beer, like with the food. It's like really representing the internationality, also in the context of the diversity of beers within the kingdom of beers, you could say. And then also there's I think in Berlin, and Berlin always has been a pioneer city for that. Berlin has a kind of ingrained anti-authoritarian attitude, I would say, yeah, and the kind of I wouldn't say anti-corporate, but let's put it this way. I think Berliners have always been more likely to support your local small business, and in this way, basically support your neighborhood project. And if it's like €2 more, then people see the value in that and rather put the €2 more in the pockets of the small entrepreneur or small business than putting it into the pockets of the big corporations, beer corporations that historically dominated the beer market in Germany and still do, honestly, right? I mean, the craft beer sector in Germany is still, compared, let's say, to the States, for example, is minor, but it's growing. It's growing fast, and Berlin, for certain cultural and also economic reasons, turned into the hub for really interesting experimental craft beer scene, as well as also paying homage to traditional styles, but brewed in a small microbrewery with better ingredients, with more times for fermentation, and just also going back to the good old craftsmanship, to offering artisanal products that people can relate to. They know where it comes from, who they support with buying that stuff, right? And this is all these little factors created an incredibly interesting independent microbrewing and craft beer scene here in the city. And that is, of course, what we're going to showcase just really zoomed in on a micro level, and Friedrichshain, there's a lot more to it. You can go to Kreuzberg and you find also incredible brew pubs and tap rooms and so on. For us, Friedrichshain is where we know the people since a long time, where we hang out a lot, and where it really also concentrates, where you have also the pioneers for microbrewing and craft beer in the city. And so that is why we chose Friedrichshain. But you could also go to other districts, and in general, all over Berlin, you find a really interesting microbrewing and craft beer scene these days.
So glad to see that they're embracing the craft beer. When I was in Berlin several years ago, I noticed a lot of the beer halls were the big corporate ones, and they only served their particular beer. And in fact, a lot of them were from Munich, which I thought was which was a little unusual. So I'm glad to see that Berlin is kind of taking it back and making their own beer. Okay, that's Alex from Walk With Us Tours. You can book your Berlin tour at walkwithustours.com. I've also got links to all my guests in the show notes. You can find out more about Travels with Darley at darley-newman.com. Rick Kempfer is at eckhartzpress.com. That's ECKHARTZ press.com. And Stu Helm is at stuhelmfoodfan.com. Okay, that's it for this week. Next week, it's mini martinis and Mad Men's influence on cocktail culture as we explore cocktails in London. Until then, get over to destinationeatdrink.com for more foodie travel adventures. I just posted a story about bus travel and how I've changed my tune about riding the bus. Read that at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. I've also posted a new video about life in Portugal. This one is about why Portugal, and the U.S. for that matter, needs more, not less, immigration. See that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com, or you can go to my YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. And if summer travel brings you to Portugal, Spain, Milan, or Belgium, I've got foodie travel guides to all those places. Download your ebook at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. All the best local dishes and drinks and where to get them and cool things to do. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.